delusional killers, misperceiving the world, drawing fatal conclusions. In Louisiana, Michael Owen Perry believes the singer Olivia Newton-John is telepathically tormenting him. He snaps, killing 5 members of his family. (1983), Lake Arthur, Louisiana. Police are summoned to the home of Chester Perry and discover unspeakable carnage.
I'll tell you, it's when you walk in and look at something like that, it just doesn't fit.
Grace and Chester Perry and their grandson are found dead, shot at extremely close range. In a neighboring house, 2 nephews of the Perrys are discovered, killed in their sleep. As police sift through the carnage, they find a crucial clue. A scrap of paper listing the names of each victim and another name, pop star Olivia Newton-John. The note appears to be written by the Perrys' youngest son, Michael. The 28-year-old becomes the primary suspect. Once a bright and talented musician, Michael Owen Perry is known as the neighborhood eccentric. He talks to himself and is obsessed with Olivia Newton-John. Perry is nowhere to be found, and a manhunt ensues. Little do police know, he sits 1,200 miles away in a Washington, D.C. hotel, locked in his room, watching TV. What drives a talented son to ruthlessly execute his own family?
The vicious crimes of Michael Owen Perry are a reaction to the confusion he experiences. He consistently misperceives the world around him and constructs an elaborate and evolving delusion to explain these bizarre experiences. An examination of his past reveals the source of these misperceptions.
1968. Michael Owen Perry is the youngest of 3 children. A bright student and a talented musician. As a teenager, he plays in a popular local band called the Great Pretenders. Then tragedy strikes. Perry's brother Ronnie dies in a work-related accident. The loss devastates the family, especially Perry's younger sister. She is committed to a mental institution and diagnosed with schizophrenia. Michael also has difficulty coping. He tells neighbors that his dead brother is on vacation in England. Soon after, he joins his sister in the psychiatric hospital.
The death of Perry's brother reveals not only a tight family bond, but a genetic predisposition for schizophrenia. A devastating neurological disorder, schizophrenia attacks the brain, twists perceptions, and produces delusional thoughts. While the exact cause of the disease is unknown, research reveals that genetics plays a role. Close family members of schizophrenics are several times more likely to develop the disorder. While Perry is not diagnosed at this time, soon after, he begins to display symptoms of the disease.
Perry escapes from the mental hospital and retreats to the world inside his head. He spends hours watching TV and develops an obsession with singer-actress Olivia Newton-John. He writes letters to the star, sharing details of his life.
My mother gave me a copy of People magazine, which you were in. Noises from outside causes interference from your messages. If you are not real, some Disneyland puppet, then I will take those matters into my own.
Convinced that she has mystic powers, Perry hears voices that he believes are telepathic messages from Olivia. He cuts down all the trees in his parents' yard to eliminate interference with the perceived transmissions.
Auditory hallucinations, or hearing voices, is often one of the first symptoms experienced by individuals developing schizophrenia. Michael Perry appears to be in the early stages of the disease. Often imagined as radio or television transmissions, voices are actually internal thoughts and memories that are perceived to be coming from the outside.
Perry's perceptions become increasingly bizarre. He sees a resemblance in the eyes of Olivia Newton-John and his mother, and at times confuses her for the pop star. When he realizes his mistake, he reacts angrily, severely beating his mother. His confusion turns to paranoia. Perry assembles empty packages and mails them to himself to test if he is being monitored. He becomes suspicious of his obsession. Perry believes Olivia Newton-John has developed a new, insidious means of communicating with him by changing the color of her eyes. The perceived affronts turn gruesome. He sees dead, rotting corpses rising through the cracks in his floors and draws the conclusion that Olivia is responsible. Perry travels to Malibu to confront his tormentor. He camps out in the woods near her home for days. He attempts to gain access to her gated estate, but is repeatedly turned away by security and fails to make contact with the singer. He is devastated.
Perry reacts to his getting turned away in Malibu as a rejection at the hands of the woman who was both the central figure in his delusional scheme and the focus of his twisted energies. Now, isolated more than ever, Perry spirals out of control and loses all connection with reality. He flies into a psychotic rage.
Perry returns to Lake Arthur and focuses his anger towards his family. He breaks into his cousin's home and shoots them with a pistol as they lie sleeping. He walks across the yard to his parents' house and quietly awaits their return. When they arrive, Perry aims a shotgun and shoots his father, mother, and nephew in the head from close range. Perry flees to Washington, D.C. and holes up in a cheap hotel room. He acquires 9 TVs and tunes them all to static. He writes cryptic messages on the screens, including the names of his 5 victims. He later claims that static is the only thing that makes sense to him. When Perry steals a radio, he is arrested, and police realize he is wanted for multiple murders. He is diagnosed with schizophrenia, but determined competent to stand trial. Found guilty on 5 counts of murder, he is sentenced to death. In prison, Perry refuses medication and is determined too psychotic to be executed.
100% God. I made it 90 years ago, and my job is to help the whole wide world as much as I can.
Perry is 52 and faces life in prison. His mind is still gripped by delusions. Dr. Stone considers the life and the crimes of Michael Owen Perry before placing him on his scale of evil.
While Perry is criminally responsible for his actions, his fractured delusional mind must be taken into consideration when placing him on my scale. Killers of equal brutality, whose faculties are not compromised, belong at level 8 or higher on my scale. Because Perry's mind is gripped by a disjointed reality, I place him at level 7, paranoid killers with a psychotic core.